Good day to all of you students, and welcome to this next part of the presentation, which will deal with tips and techniques in comparing and evaluating information in different texts. This skill is tested in part 4 of the MUET reading paper, and based on feedback, this part may be quite tricky. I will first give you some tips, and then we will try a sample set of questions together. But before I begin, let me first introduce myself. I am Oh Chen Mei from the English Language Unit of College Matrikulasi Negeri Sembilan. I have been teaching for 15 years and have been a MUET examiner for both the speaking and writing papers. I hope that with my experience, I will be able to help you tackle this part of the reading paper. So, let us begin. For this part of the reading paper, besides identifying main ideas and supporting details as presented in the previous session, you'll be required to compare and evaluate the information from two different texts as well. Here, you will need to determine how those two texts are similar or different from each other. Let me show you the format to give you an idea of this section. Here in this part, you're given the first text. Then, the next two questions are based on the first text. Then, this is the second text. And the next two more questions, as you can see over here, are based on the second text. Then the last two questions are based on both texts. Here, I would like you to take note that both texts are usually thematically linked. This means both of them will have the same idea or the same topic together. And to help you answer, you will first need to initially find out what is the text about, what is the main topic about. So for this, you can usually find it from the question itself at the top of the text. Like over here, it says, read two texts about a film art director. So you know that the text or the topic is going to talk about somebody who is a film art director. Then as you're reading, you also need to determine the purpose of the text. This question is usually asked towards the end after you have answered questions from each text individually. So you usually need to find out whether they have the same viewpoint or different viewpoint of the same topic. So this means that do they agree or disagree with each other on the same issue? So you can highlight the words that show the same and show contrast in both texts in order for you to answer the question. Usually the kind of question that they will ask is to ask you, what does this text from, what does the text 1 say about this issue compared to text 2, something like that, okay? Alright, so the questions will test your skills in identifying for main ideas and supporting details, as what was presented earlier, but there are also other skills included, which are interpreting the text for author's intention, attitudes, and style. And these are some of the kinds of questions that are asked. Sometimes they will ask you, this line is used by the writer to emphasize what? Or another one, it says here, what's the writer's attitude towards the difficulties faced by this person? Was his attitude critical or objective or indifferent? So please take note of the meanings of these different words so that you will know what's the difference between these as you search for the answers based on the clue or what the author says or means inside those texts. So another kind of question that is also similar that they like to ask is also to determine the author's writing purpose, such as was the writer trying to inform you about something, or was he trying to advise you about something, or was he trying to warn you against something, was he trying to persuade you to buy something or to do something or to explain some kind of phenomenon to you or to entertain you. That means after you read, you feel like, wow, this is such a nice story. You feel entertained, all right? Or to instruct you to do something, give you some kind of order, or instructions one by one, or to describe some kind of phenomenon as well. So sometimes this question will appear in this part 4 of the text as well, to ask you about the purpose for both of the texts. Between text 1 and text 2, compare what's the purpose for each. Alright, so this is an example of another one to ask you, why did the writer use this phrase? Or why did this person say this? Alright, to demonstrate, to compare, to illustrate, to emphasize. Okay, so I don't have time to really go through each of these terms, but one tip for you to be able to recognize the author purpose is that while you read, you ask yourself, what is the author trying to say to me here? All right, how do I feel after reading it? So is it advising me about something, or just giving me some information, or instructing me to do something? Then you choose the appropriate answer based on some of the keywords and based on how you feel after reading it. Okay, so now before we continue, there are just a few tips that I would like to highlight to you so that you're able to approach the text better. The first thing is to always read the questions first before you begin. Alright, when you're sitting for any exam, okay, what do you do first? Let's say you're sitting for your science or maths paper. What you do is you always try to do some past year questions first, right? Before you actually go for the exam, isn't it? So the similar concept applies here. Before you actually attempt a text, read through the questions first. So the whole idea is not for you to actually understand the question or memorize the question. No, actually, the whole idea is so that you can have an idea of what the text is going to ask you. A little bit of background, so that it's easier for you to understand the text. Otherwise, you'll be reading the text just blankly, and then you don't even know what to focus on and things like that. Alright, but if you scan through the questions first, quickly, then you'll be able to see, oh, okay, so this text is about something, right? Or it's related to this question. And then you just scan through quickly. It's not important for you to memorize what the question is saying. So just read the questions and scan quickly. Alright, and then while you're reading the questions, identify and underline maybe one or two keywords in the question. That's all, just to get an idea. Alright, and then moving on to the next tip, when you move to the paragraphs, after reading the questions, right, you move to the paragraphs or the text to read, use a pen to help you to read. Okay, this will be able to help you to read faster. And then it helps your eyes to focus on the words as well. You don't need to exactly understand every single thing you read, alright? You just read. Try it with and without the pen. See if it helps you or not. And then, of course, while you're reading, you identify and underline at least one keyword that you understand. Okay, ask yourself this question. What do you think is the main message of the paragraph? Usually, the main message will appear in the first line of the paragraph, which is the topic sentence of the paragraph. So that topic sentence will be able to help you understand what this whole paragraph is talking about. And that's enough, alright? You don't have to worry about any words that you don't understand or any idea or specific details. You don't have to worry about it. You only worry about it if the questions ask you later. Then you have to read in specific detail of that particular sentence, of that particular section that is related to the question. So what is that whole paragraph trying to tell me? Then next one, what's the whole paragraph trying to tell me? Then next one. There's no right or wrong answer. It's based on what you understand. And usually, this is actually very important because the question will ask you overall, what is the main idea of that paragraph? What is it actually trying to say to you? Okay, so let's try the tips that I've given you earlier. We will attempt two previous texts shown to you about the film art directors. And this text was taken from the most recent MUET in October session 2. Okay, to start, so we don't know what the text is about yet. We scan the questions first. Alright, so the question says here, the writer begins the article by describing something. Remember earlier I told you as you're reading, use a pencil or a pen to help you highlight and to focus your eyes. So the same goes for question as well. You want to highlight or underline the keywords that tells you that this is what it wants you to focus on. So now here we know that it's asking you to watch out for how the writer begins the article. So by describing something, alright, so what does it describe? You don't have to read the options yet. Remember earlier I told you the main aim of reading the question first is to find out or to give you an idea of what the whole text is about and to help you to know where to focus. So now we know, okay, somewhere at the beginning. And then we move on to the next question. It says here, which of the following describes Riley? So we don't know who this Riley is, but we know that there'll be a person named Riley. It could be the film art director that was described earlier. So we want to know, as we read, how does it describe her? Okay, so now we move on to the passage. Let's read together. Okay, and as we read, like I mentioned, if there are any words that jump out to you, we underline. So for 5 years, Deborah Riley has worked on the creation of 7 kingdoms. Okay, so she has worked on the creation of 7 kingdoms in Game of Thrones. All right, so now from this first text, we know that this person has worked to create some kingdom inside Game of Thrones lah. So if some of you all follow some of these Netflix shows and things like that, you would know that Game of Thrones is some kind of movie or some kind of series in the television. And it says here, she has traveled to ancient cities, shivered through icy winters, stared down dragons. Wow, stared down dragons. And then feeling dead on her feet, she is pushed through long hours to create a world that has ruled the small screen for 8 seasons. All right, so it seems that on this second part of the sentence, it shows that, it has not been easy for her. The words that I highlighted or underlined over here shows that, that she's had quite a tough time to shiver through icy winters, feeling dead and things like that. It's not been easy to create this 7 kingdom. And it has been a dream come true for her. Okay, what kind of dream? Who has worked as the production of designer on the hit HBO series Game of Thrones since 2013. All right, so we know here it's been difficult, but it's still a dream come true for her. And in that time, the well-known designer has won 4 Emmy Awards. All right, so basically, from this first part here, we know that she worked on this Game of Thrones movie, and it's not been very easy for her, but it's still a dream come true. All right, so now we go on to the next one. But for Riley and her colleagues, the world of Westeros is far from fantasy. Okay, so I underline the word far, but if let's say inside this sentence, another word seems to jump out on you, you just underline, doesn't matter. Like I mentioned earlier, there are no right or wrong answers. Okay, and then this is what she says. The more the audience believes in the world of the show, the more they believe in dragons. Okay, something about believing lah. And the art department and I tried to make all of the sets as realistic as possible by making sure that there was a heaviness and edge to the spaces. By this all means nothing. But this all means nothing if the costumes do not work. And seeing the characters walk onto a set is when it really comes alive. Okay, so for her, what we know is that it has been a lot of hard work for her to make everything in the set realistic in the Game of Thrones movie. And then she believes that, the costumes must be very important because it makes the movie come alive. All right, so far we know that it's not been easy, but she tries to make it realistic. Okay, so next, when you read, again as usual, underline to help you understand the text. So Riley's breakthrough into film came in the 1990s when she was hired as a set designer for The Matrix. Okay, so we find out that she was hired as a set designer for this thing, and the visual effects of the film won 4 Academy Awards. Okay, fine. All right. Then Riley went on to work on a number of high-profile films, including Anna and the King, 21 Grams, and Moulin Rouge. All right, so she's worked on these films, and her success saw her selected as the art director for the Sydney Olympic Games. Okay, so she became an art director as well. And events like the Olympics tend to be about the identity of the place that they are held in. All right, so something about events, something about identity. There's a huge responsibility to get the tone correct. All right, so something about getting the tone correct. Again, earlier, this is something about the art, being an art director. So something from there, that it's something about creating a set, making a set look real inside a film and also in events like this. So she wants to make the tone correct and to represent the history, thoughts, and ideas of the nation. This was during the Olympic Games. Okay, if let's say you don't really understand what you're reading so far, it doesn't matter. All right, like I told you, you only need to know what that part of the text really says if you need to answer the question. Otherwise, what you need to know is just a basic idea of what the whole text says. And if the question asks you, then you focus on that certain part that you need to really understand. Otherwise, all the other parts are actually not very serious if you don't really understand what it's saying. Alright, so don't worry so much about it. You just continue. Okay, then we move on to the next one. So now again, it continues about Riley's career path. It says that it could have been a different one. And then it all started soon after she completed her Bachelor of Design Studies at University of Queensland in Australia, 1993. So this is design studies, something about design. And she said, I had every intention of graduating from the full architecture course. All right, so now we know this is something about architecture, her design studies, which is slightly different from what she's doing. Hers is a set design. But the most instrumental subject for me was behavior and environmental studies. Okay, fine. Then it boils down to the psychology of space. And I can honestly say that I use the basic principles at work today. So she has, what we know is she has applied something from her Bachelor of Design Studies into work. And she loves this subject, behavior and environmental studies. Okay. But it was when she saw Batman Returns, okay, so she saw this movie, that she first realized someone was responsible for designing the sets. Then Riley then set her sights on studying another degree in performing arts at NIDA. So this is probably an institution where people study performing arts, and was surprised when she got accepted because she had no experience in theatre. So she got accepted into this performing arts at this center here, NIDA. Okay, all right. So now we know that this story is about Riley and about how her career started. This was in paragraph 5 and 6, and then earlier talks about the struggles that she had trying to make the set for Game of Thrones, and also we find out a bit about the other high-profile films that she did over here. All right, in her career. So now you know, okay, this part is talking about Riley's career. So you're done reading the text. What do you do next? After reading, go back and look at the questions again, of course. And then what do you do after you look at the questions? This is the third tip. Search for the idea or keyword in the text. Use the scanning method and then underline where you think the idea is. So you look at the question and then you find the idea of the question in the text. At each question you got to look at the specific sentence that has the answer. You cannot look at the whole paragraph and guess the answer because it's going to make it very difficult. So when you go through the text later on, look at one question and then look at one section of the sentence. All right. Then look at the question again to confirm and select the matching answer. Then look at the next question. Then look at the next section of sentences. Then look again to confirm and select. Then it'll be easier. And the section is just 1 or 2 sentences usually. That's all. All right. So let us begin analyzing the question again in detail. So the writer begins the article. So after you have found out and read through the article and know what the article is about, then you go to the section of the question where it asks you. So here it wants to know how this Riley begins. So before you actually go back to the text, read through each of the options first to see which part of the text matches each of the option. So it says here in the first option A, something about the history of 7 kingdoms. Okay, so we find out, does the first part of the article talks about history? Okay, or is it talking about her dreams when she was designing the set? Or does it talk about the challenges that she faced when designing the set? Okay, all right, so is it history, her dream, or the challenges? And then if you can remember just now when I told you when we were reading through, all these kind of words, all right, traveling to ancient cities, shivering through, looking at dragons. Of course, this is not real. This is in literal terms, looking at maybe troubles or looking at danger, feeling dead on the feet, long hours. So we know that it has not been easy. All these can refer to the term challenge. All right. Whereas if let's say you look at the previous question here, it says here history. Is there anything about the history of the 7 kingdoms or her dream? Although you look back at the text, this one talks about the challenges, all right? And there is a word here that says, it's a dream come true for her. But this is just one sentence that talks about her dream when she worked as a production designer. And that's all. But the main bulk of it was to tell you how difficult it was for her to actually create the set. And it was a dream come true only. But it wasn't talking about her dream all the time. And also over here, there was nothing about the history of the Seven Kingdoms in the Game of Thrones. Alright, so here we can safely say that it is not about history. It is not about her dream when designing the set. It is about the challenges that she faced. So C is the answer for this first one. Okay, and then next one, which one describes her? So again, we look at each of the option. Which one is the one that matches the ideas inside the text? So first, is it she got the idea to learn about set design from one of the movies she watched? All right. So was there something that made her feel that, okay, I want to do something about set design? Or does she know that studying in this institution, NIDA, would be good for her career? Or is it she quit her architecture degree to study the design degree? All right. So did she get the idea to learn about a movie from a movie? Or she knows that studying here would be good for her? Or did she quit? So one by one, you check against the text. All right. So we go to the part of the text that talks a bit about this, about movie, Nida, and how she quit her architecture degree. So we can find this all in the last few paragraphs. At first, it talks about what? Okay, we look at the last one. She saw this Batman Returns. All right. And then she wanted to study another degree at this place. All right. So she saw a movie and then she realized that she wanted to study another degree. So it's possible that it could be A. If you go back to the question again, okay, so she had the idea because of one of the movies that she watched. Or the second one, does she know that it would be good for her career or not? Did she actually know that when she went to this place, it would be good? Actually, it doesn't say that she knows it. It just says here that she went to study at this place. And she didn't know why, because she was surprised when she got accepted. So she didn't know actually. She was just like trying out because she was inspired to learn about set design. And then finally, did she quit her architecture degree to study a design degree? Let's see, did she quit or not? All right, it started after she completed her bachelor. So actually, no, she did not quit. She actually completed it lah. All right, so this is for question number 16. What you can do is, as you find and match the answers, you can actually write down the number of where you found the answers from, so that, it will confirm the answer that matches together with the part where you got the answer from. So nobody can actually argue with you that your answer was wrong because the proof is there and you have the number to prove to you. So now let's look at the next text of the same part. All right, and as usual, we look at the question first, skim and scan quickly to see what the question says and to make you focus on the whole text later on. So now here it says here, in paragraphs 1 and 2, which sentence most clearly states the writer's opinion? So now you want to find out the opinion. What is the writer's opinion about this Game of Thrones series? Okay, then what will Riley do with the Games of Thrones set? Okay, so something about opinion and something about the set. Okay, now we move on to the text. The text, second text now, which you can see it has the same theme. Earlier theme was talking about Riley, talking about Game of Thrones. This second text as well, about Riley and about Game of Thrones. So now you read this and then later on, the next two questions are going to ask you to compare. But not yet lah. We have to deal with these two questions first. Okay, so it says here, the epic fantasy series Game of Thrones was based on author George R.R. Martin's novel series, A Song of Ice and Fire. Okay, so we know that this epic series, is based on this author. Maybe not very important lah, this information, but you just read through. So it's about the battle to rule over the kingdom of Westeros. Okay, some kind of battle, and there has never been quite a show like the Game of Thrones. Okay, so it says here, wow, the show must be quite fantastic lah. There's never been one like it. And since its first season in 2011, the show has won 38 Emmys. Okay, won a lot of awards. Okay, that's more than Frasier, The Simpsons, and Breaking Bad. And there is a fierce anticipation, okay, for the 8th and final season, already due to be released next year. Okay, So a lot of people, they are hoping, they are waiting for the final season. And in the middle of TV's biggest show is Australia's Deborah Riley, the introduction of this person that was earlier mentioned in the previous text. So earlier this year, she won her 4th Emmy for her work as production designer on HBO's blockbuster series. So again, winning some Emmy awards for herself. Okay, let's continue. So such is the hunger for fans to know the show's secrets. Who will sit on the Iron Throne? That drones and even ultralight aircrafts have been spotted flying over the sets in Northern Ireland. Wow, so here we can see that the fans are so hungry to know what's going to happen at the end of the final season that they even send drones, to fly over to the set to go and spy to see what will happen. But today, it's delicious vegan fare rather than season spoilers on the table as Riley introduces me to one of her favorite restaurants, OM Vegan Kitchen in Surrey Hills. All right, so we know that what happens here is that the writer has actually met Riley, all right, and is eating. This Riley introduced her to one of the favorite restaurants and is probably eating with Riley. And this writer, said, I select brown rice, potatoes, and a vegan masamam curry. And are you sure you've got enough? Riley asked solicitously. All right. Okay, don't worry if let's say you don't know the meaning of the word. Like I mentioned earlier, if let's say the sentence or the question asks you the meaning of the word, then only you start worrying, then you start guessing what you think the meaning is. Otherwise, what you can do is you can just gloss over the word, you can guess the meaning based on the context that is given, and then that's it. You don't have to worry so much about it. So from here, we know that, in this context, Riley asked, are you sure it's enough or not? So she asked solicitously. So that means probably that she's actually worried or concerned, asked in a concerned way, or in a worried way, whether this writer has enough or not. So she asked before selecting a bit of everything from the buffet, followed by a green yogi smoothie. All right, okay, so never mind, let's continue. So now we just know that the writer is eating with Riley. That's the main important part of this whole paragraph. Okay, then next, as we sit in the park and tuck in, Riley finally reveals that on her last day on Game of Thrones, July 6th, the day her watch had ended, all right, was really emotional. So this is her last day. It was so emotional for her because it meant saying goodbye to so many people that she has worked with for the 5.5 years. Okay, fine. Then in person, Riley radiates warmth and a fierce intelligence. A graduate of dramatic art design from Sydney NIDA, Riley's early work included working as a set director on The Matrix. Okay, so you may find that maybe some of the ideas here is repetitive to what was in the previous text. But remember, it is supposed to be about one text about the same theme, which may have similar things or different things. I think when I was reading to you, you can see already some things appear familiar from the previous text, some things are new ideas. So these will be asked later on as you compare the ideas from both texts to answer the next two questions about the two of them. All right, okay, but coming back to here first, let's continue with the text. So, but she says working with the directors of 3 particular projects helped prepare her for working on Game of Thrones, Moulin Rouge, 21 Grams, and the Sydney Olympics. Okay, so now we know that she's again, this part is working about being working as a set director in this Matrix movie first, and it helped her for these other movies later on. Okay, now let's continue. So it continues to say here, Riley moved to LA in 2008. So now we know this is what happens to her in her life, right in the middle of the global financial crisis. So after 5 tough years, she had a breakthrough. Okay, so something that was successful for her lah. All right, as she was working when HBO called and said, we think you should interview for this job. And her audition process lasted about a month. If there was anything that had my DNA on it, it was the Game of Thrones. All right, so we know that after she graduated and she worked on other movies, she had this huge opportunity to work on this movie called The Game of Thrones. Okay, so the former architecture student was able to cherry pick from real life history for inspiration. So she took from real life history, we know from here, to help her to be inspired to work on the movie. And then it says that you should be able to smell a set. It should feel so real, she told Collective Hub magazine. As part of the show's success is its ability to convince viewers that both the show's human dramas as well as its dragons and ice walls are real. Okay, so she tries to convince the viewers lah, and she says that, this is what makes the show success. So incidentally, what will happen to all the sets now that the filming is over? So what will happen? So we are madly cataloging everything at the end of the show. So one day, the public will be able to see them. Okay, so she wants the public to be able to see the catalog of everything. So that's what she says. As we are gradually clearing the stages, but they're also clearing, and the studios, and the studios were sort of closing down. That was very sad as well. But she also felt very sad, watching things go into the skip that had sat there for years. Okay, now let's go back to the questions. So number 17 here, which sentence most clearly states the writer's opinion? All right. So so all these sentences actually appear inside the text. All right. So the question wants you to find out which one states the opinion. Is it there has never been quite a show, or the opinion is it's a battle to rule, or is the opinion saying that it's the first season? Okay. So which one sounds more like the opinion of this series? So earlier that one, there has never been quite a show. Okay, that one was here. There has never been quite a show. Shows you, okay, wow, okay. And then that one, it's about a battle to rule over the kingdom. And then the other one, it says it was based on the series, was it? Since its first season, the show has won 38 Emmys. Okay, the show has won. All right. Which one sounds more like an opinion to you? All right, opinion is what that person feels about the game of shows. So if you look at C and B, and what you can see here is that this one looks a bit more wrong lah. This is definitely not opinion. This is showing you some fact that in this first season it has won 38 Emmys. So it doesn't sound like an opinion. All right, and then it sounds like a description. It is about the battle. It sounds like a description about the series. So it is not really some kind of opinion that she is talking about. So that means A should probably be the final answer. She's saying that, wow, it has never been a show quite like this show. Never been a show quite like this show reveals that, this show is awesome lah. Okay. There is none like it. None like this show. Never a show has been done that is so wonderful like this. Okay. All right. Now let's move on to the next one now. So the answer here will be A. Okay. So what will Riley do with the Games of Thrones sets? So just now we found out somewhere at the end about what she was going to do there. Is she going to put it in a gallery, or throw it away, or use it for another movie? So let's go back to that part of the paragraph which tells you about what she wants to do. Here. So what will happen to all the sets now that filming is over? So what is she going to do about it? So she's cataloging them, okay, so that the public will be able to see them. All right. So this sounds like that part of the answer here. She'll put it into a gallery. So this one maybe be an answer lah. All right. Doesn't say that she's going to throw it away yet. Doesn't say that she's going to use it for another movie. But before you choose the answer, don't fall into the trap. Read further. Okay, so she wants the public to see them. And then she says, as we are gradually clearing the stages and the studios were sort of closing down, that was very sad as well. Okay, so she's trying to catalog everything. Up here, you see here earlier, she tries to put everything, catalog it, all right, but she's also clearing the stage at the same time to make the studio close down. And she said she's also very sad because she watches the things go into the skip that had sat there for years. Okay, so watching things going into the skip. Okay, what does it mean by go into the skip? Okay, this is actually a vocabulary question. Skip actually means something, This is a picture of what we call a skip. This box here that shows you a place that people put rubbish in. So this yellow box is actually called a skip. I think you've seen this box before in some construction places where people do renovation. Usually they'll put a box out there for people to throw a lot of things. So this box is actually known as a skip. So when she watches the things to go into the skip, she felt sad. That means watching the things go into the rubbish bin. So that means actually that you see, we go back to the question. It says here, what will she do with the set? Alright, is she going to put it in a gallery or throw away most of it? You have the word most, or use it for another movie. We know that she didn't say anything about using it for another movie. And then it says here that, she's going to put in a gallery. But is she also going to throw away most of it? So actually, without me telling you the answer, you know already. Yeah, actually, the second option looks better. Okay, the first option looks more wrong because it says here, yes, although she's going to catalog everything, but maybe not everything. And this is about the set. It's asking about the set. All right, the set includes the stage or the studio, which will all go into the skip, which I showed you earlier. So that makes her feel very sad. So now you know that the answer is probably B here lah. It's going to be thrown away, most of it, and not to put in a gallery. Most of it. Only some special ones will be put in the gallery. Okay. So let's go now to the question. This part which will ask you for both text 1 and text 2. So this is when the skill of comparing comes in. So now we look at the question. What is the central idea for both text 1 and text 2? So now it's going to ask you for both of these. So you have to find which is similar for both of these. Alright. So is the main idea, this is talking about the main idea, So is it about the Emmy Awards? Alright. So is the text talking mainly about the Emmy Awards only? So no, Emmy Awards, this is too specific already. It's not talking about the awards and this award, that award. Alright. The Emmy Awards, if you remember what we read earlier, it's only that small section inside the sentence, that's all. So cannot. Alright. So the efforts put in to make Game of Thrones sets look real. Okay, maybe something about the effort that was put in to make it look real and good lah. How much effort she puts in, the challenges she faced and all that. And the importance of being guided by Game of Thrones famous directors. Was there anything that talks about some director helping her? Not really. If you can remember what you read earlier, it was mainly talking about what she did, the things that she did. She went to university to go and study and, she go and research about this and that to make the set look real lah, in both text 1 and text 2. It says here again the central idea. So if you go back to text 1 and text 2, the text 1 was talking about the challenges and all that, studying. The text 2 was talking about all the effort that she has put in. So if you were to compare among all these, actually, even if you're not sure, even if you're not sure if B is the correct answer, but there's this new technique that I want to teach you all later, which is called choosing the wrong answer method. Which one looks more wrong to you? So this one, like I said earlier, it's too specific. So most probably it's not the answer. Alright. And then here, the importance of being guided, there's nothing talking about director as well. So the only one left is this answer lah. The effort that is put in. Alright. Even though it may not look real to you, you may not find, that the idea for text 2 talks much about the effort. But then, because the other two are more wrong, so you have B. Okay. And then the next one, what are the main distinguishing features of text 1 and text 2? What makes text 1 and text 2 different from each other? Alright, so we see here, text 1 discusses Riley's skills. Is it talking about her skills? While text 2 discusses where Riley got her ideas. Okay, alright, about where she got her idea from. Does it say that in text 2? Later we see. Or does it talk about her life before the Game of Thrones? While text 2 discuss what is happening behind the scenes. So what happens, what did she do, in order to build up the scenes? Text 1 discusses her difficulties to enter Nida. Was there anything about her difficulty? There's nothing mentioned much about her difficulty. While text 2 discusses what Riley did before entering. Okay, there's nothing about what she did before entering. For text 2, if you remembered, it talks about what happens at the end of the film industry and what happens during the film industry of doing this whole thing as well. You can look at maybe the screenshot. If you took a screenshot earlier, you can look at it and then you can confirm lah. Alright, so this one is probably not, because there's nothing much about the difficulty here and nothing about what she did before entering. Okay, and this one yeah, maybe talk a bit about her skills and where she got, but does it talk about where she got her ideas from or not? Alright, so we're not sure whether it's about where she got her ideas from. And then this one talks about her life and what's happening behind the scenes. So now you need to look at text 1 and see whether text 1 looks at the skill or the life. Which one more? And then you look at text 2 and you look at whether text 2 talks about where she got her ideas or what's happening behind the scene. Okay, so we look at text 1 first. So remember earlier text 1 you're trying to see, is it talking about her life or is it talking about her skills? So this one talking about, okay, what she did and all that, alright, and then it became a dream come true for her. And then here again it talks about what she did lah, alright, to make the set realistic, how it's important for her and how she wants to make it come alive, alright. And then it talks a bit about her life here, about when the film came, she was hired as set designer, and then she did all these films and also in events in the Olympics. And it talks about her studies inside this university, and then it talks about when she saw this movie, she was inspired. Okay, so it's a bit about her life, isn't it, actually? Alright, talking about what happened to her, what she did, throughout her life, and then at the end of it, she got this post to be a film set designer for the Game of Thrones. So it doesn't talk so much about the skills, what she did and all that. So probably about life. So now we look at the second text. So in the second text, you're going to find out where she got her ideas from or what was happening behind the scenes. Okay, so is there anything that tells you about where she get her ideas, Okay, so here it says it has won all these awards, Alright, fine. Then it says here, this is the set. They ate at a restaurant, and then her watch has ended, and then she was a graduate from this place, and when she works with all these directors, it helped her to prepare. Okay, and then it says also what happened. She had breakthrough, and then she was interviewed, and then she got this job, and then how it was successful. So what does the idea sound like to you here? Is it about where she got her ideas from mainly, or is it what's happening behind the scenes? That means when she was working on this, what was it? So earlier we mentioned that in text 1 it is more about life. Alright, so does it discuss more about what's happening behind the scenes? Probably, maybe. Okay, because it's talking about what happens to her after the set is done, before that, what she has to do, what she has to prepare during the thing. So it's not focusing so much about the idea. Okay, idea sounds a bit more wrong. It's more about the life over here lah. So because this one sounds more wrong, so we don't take this, and then this we don't take, so we are left with B. That's the answer. Okay, what happens if you cannot decide on the answer? I would like to suggest this thing called the wrong answer method. This means that between the two options that you have in front of you, you choose the most wrong looking answer first. Alright? And that is the wrong one. Because it's always easier for us to point out something that is wrong than to point out something that is right. Isn't it? It's always easier to find fault with your friends or find out your friends' mistakes than to see the positive side. So it's always like that. The human eye, So when you have two different answers that you're not sure of, I know most of us like to choose which is the best answer. We will see whether this one is better or this one is better. But no, I want you to change your mind. Tell yourself, okay, between the two, which one looks more wrong? Which one looks more funny and weird? So maybe you think, okay, I think this one looks more funny and weird. So maybe the other option looks also not so correct to you, and you're also not sure. But since this one looks more wrong, then I think this one must be the answer. So you select the answer that is left. Okay? So which one looks more wrong? Not which one looks more right. And then you will end up choosing the right one. Because both are going to look right to you. And the answer that looks more right to you may actually be the wrong answer, because they might have put a trap, a keyword there that may seem like the right answer, but this is actually a trap. It's not actually accurate. So choose the one that looks more wrong first. Then the one that is left is the answer. Choose the one that looks like it doesn't fit into the answer scheme. Like, it doesn't fit into the answer. You can't find any clue of it inside the paragraph or any sentence. Nothing inside the text talks about it. So that one is probably the wrong one lah. Okay. So this method actually applies to other subjects as well, to your science subjects and others, because this is a backed up research which has been done by other people to compare two groups of people who are working on this. And they found out that the group which used this wrong answer method were actually more able to get more correct answers compared to the group that uses the best looking answer method. So I'm not sharing with you any bogus tips or whatever, okay? This is based on my own experience and also from research papers that I have read before. So you try this and see. Maybe it will be able to help you answer and get more correct answers, okay? So I hope that you understand now a bit about how to search for answers by doing the matching method. Try to match, what the keywords are from this text with the keywords inside the questions. And then also, if let's say you find that, it's difficult for you to differentiate between the answers, use the wrong answer method. All right. If you have any questions, you may type it in the chat box and the chat moderators will get back to you. So now let us try, okay? So as taught earlier, we look at the questions first. So what you can do is you can please screenshot the questions and the text as I display them. This question was actually taken from session 1 of the MUET paper this year. Okay, so the two questions, screenshot. Okay, then this is the first part of the text. This is the text about cultural differences. So this is paragraph 1 and paragraph 2. And you have paragraph 3 and paragraph 4. Please screenshot. Paragraph 5 and paragraph 6. Okay, then we move on to the next two questions for the second text. For questions 17 and 18. Okay, then you have the first part, paragraph 1 and paragraph 2 of text 2. Okay, paragraph 3 and paragraph 4 of text 2. Paragraph 5 and paragraph 6. Okay, and then you have the final two questions based on text 1 and text 2. You see again the question, it will ask you, how are text 1 and text 2 similar? And then the two texts suggest what? So you need to find something that is similar between the two of them. So just a final note here and some final tips for all of you. The questions are usually asked according to the order of the text. That means if it's question 1, it will be somewhere around the top part of the text. If it's question 2, then probably somewhere below the answer for question 1. It will not be very, very far below. And if it's for question 3, it will be below question 2. The answer for question 3 will not appear before the answer for question 2. So it will be according to the order of the text. Except maybe for questions that ask which of the following is true. In that case, maybe it is throughout the whole text. They will ask you, which of this is true. Then for option A, it may appear in any part of the text. It may be at the top. Then for option B, now the idea may be in the second paragraph. For option C, it may be in another paragraph at the bottom. It will go throughout the whole passage. Which of this is true? Alright, so otherwise, it will usually follow according to the order. This same principle applies for the listening paper as well. As you listen to the recording, it will follow according to the order of the questions. Alright, and also, remember to use the wrong answer method, especially if all of the options look correct to you. And finally, remember to watch the time. This is very important because you only have 75 minutes and you have 7 texts. So one text is about 10 minutes for you to be able to complete the whole thing. And I think for the part 1 and part 2 of the text, because it's slightly easier and more straightforward, you can spend less time there because you will need more time, especially to spend for part 4 onwards. For part 4, the words may be more complicated, the text may be longer, so you'll need more time there. So watch your time as you're doing, all right? Okay, and my final words for all of you here are read, read, and read. This is in order to help you to get used to the sentence structures and the kinds of words that are commonly used. And then practice, practice, and practice, so that you'll be able to know the questioning style and what kind of traps that the questions lay out. Actually, once you know the method, right, you'll be able to tackle the question. Like earlier I said, and how I pointed out to you one by one. Find out the keyword, find out the place where it is, and then find out the trap. And then try to match. Is it the same or not? Alright? If it's not the same, then it's probably not the answer. Actually, this is basically the technique in order for you to answer the question. So you don't actually have to worry too much about getting the answer wrong, as long as the ideas match and you confirm that, okay, this is probably the answer. All right? So I guess that's all for my presentation. Thank you for joining the session. I know it's been very long. Thank you for hanging in there, because it has not been easy for you, especially for the reading paper. It's very dry, I know. You need to read through, you need to go through one by one, but I hope that you have gained something from this session. So continue to stay tuned for the next session, which will be presented by the other lecturers, and all the best for your MUET reading paper and also for your other papers as well. Alright, see you, take care, and stay safe.